All right, welcome to the We Shape podcast. Connor just told me this was episode 11. 11 is my lucky number, so we better make it good. We don't have a guest today, but sometimes I'm like okay that we don't have a guest because I feel like the three of us need to like catch up a little, even though I love having guests, and having Marilyn last episode was incredible. Although post that episode, my anxiety was 11. It's down to a 10 now, so we're doing better. But I didn't realize how debilitatingly anxious I would get after just being like, I've had plastic surgery, blah, blah, blah. Like I was like, I don't know if I want it, but I know I needed to share. But it feels really vulnerable to put yourself out there, and people are so mean online that whenever you do that, it's not like you do that and then are surprised. You do that knowing that people are going to be mean to you, right? So it's not like this big after the fact thing that's a surprise. Oh my God, wait, what? We got negative comments? But anyway, I'm glad I shared. But I feel like, it's important to be honest. And I think, again, what I had said last time, I really hope that we can all offer a space of like non-judgment for one another.
Yeah.
Not that people should do plastic surgery, not that people shouldn't do that. And it was funny, Nina, because you asked me, you said, I'm curious, and maybe we even talked about this last week, I don't remember. But you were like, would you do that now because you made those decisions like in a different like mental state? Like today you believe in different things. And I feel like I still can't answer that question. I don't know why.
It's too hard to go through an experience and then say you would like change your mind because you've had the experience, right? If you never had the experience, you wouldn't be jaded by the difficulty of it and, some of the consequences.
I was talking with someone, and like, I feel like lately I've just had so many unpopular opinions that but it's just my truth and I just need to like express it. But, I think that part of the reason, all those things that I had done were as a result of like something that I felt like a child had done to my body, right? And if I'm being really honest, when I was talking to a friend about this because she's like, well, when I was like thinking about, why I made those choices, I feel like when I became a mom, I was like, wait, what? This is what I'm going to do? And I felt like I can openly say that I chose to have children out of a construct that I was in, where I was participating in a subconscious belief system that what I was supposed to do was get married and have children, right? Not that I regret having children, but it's wild to go into a parenting journey out of a construct through kind of like your subconscious of like what you find worth in yourself through versus eyes wide open. And I mean, going into parenthood for the first time, you're never eyes wide open anyway, but to me, it was like, oh my God. And then like as the years unfolded, I really started to think to myself, like, I want to communicate to my daughters that they can do anything they want in life. And if they want to have kids and get married, I'm available. But those aren't your only two options. There's like a million things you can do. There's like 998,000 other things you can do. And I feel like when I made a choice to get married and have kids, I literally was like, that's the prize, get that prize. And so when I became a mom, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. Like there was a lot of ways that I felt like I wasn't really cut out for this. And again, they're some of the greatest gifts I've ever had, and I have no regrets. But I feel like my decision to like take back my body and be like, no, was like a means of like control, because I was like, I feel like my life was like spinning out of control when I had a child. Like, did I really want this? Why am I doing this? Who told me to do this? Like, so
I think it's important to ask yourself difficult questions like that. And just, as the man in the group here, I think it's incredibly unfair that when little boys are little boys, what are we told? You can do anything. You can grow up and be anything and do anything. And I think that narrative is, some people propagate that towards their little girls, but there's always a layer over it. Like, who are you going to marry? Are you going to have kids? Are you going to do this? And it's really hard to sit back and just let them grow up and make decisions from a place of connected to themselves. What do I really want to do? How do I want my life to look? Rather than, hey, this is what society says we should be doing, and that means you should do that. And if you're not like that, then I'm going to withhold love to make you want to do that because it makes me feel uncomfortable, right? So
yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to what I was saying about the plastic surgery conversation we had last week. Was like, it's not about saying I don't think people should get married and have kids.
Yeah.
I think it's about, and I don't think people should have plastic surgery or not. It's about going in eyes wide open and being true to yourself and checking in with yourself to see, like, am I making these decisions based out of a construct, or am I making these decisions based out of what I need for me? And I think that, like, that even goes back to all the things that we talk about here. Are you buying that fitness product because you want to lose weight because society tells you have to look that way, or because you want to do, like, I think it can get really confusing. And I don't know that we ever fully unwind it because we are so ingrained in our society. But I do think that when I look back on those times, I'm like, yeah, I felt like not rebellious, but almost like, okay, I'll cave to all the other mothering requests, but you're going to put my stomach back together. Like, I'm not caving to that one. You know, it was a little bit of like, I feel that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess I appreciate everyone on this team here for sure, and all the people who listen to us and care what we're doing. And I just can't run my life and like hold a narrative together and a story together based on what people want me to do. Like, I don't even have the energy for that anymore. I don't know if that's an age thing. I'm like, if you don't like the stuff that we're talking about, it's totally okay. Guess what? You don't have to listen to it. Like, there's millions of people who produce content and have discussions, and it's okay that we all make different choices. It's okay that we all don't agree on everything. I'm just trying to provide a platform for people to say, wait, pause. Do you want to be doing what you're doing? We're giving permission for women and men too to not have to look a certain way and do a certain thing. And we're just trying to provide a space of non-judgment and acceptance in a way that I feel like maybe other health and fitness companies have not.
Yeah. I think that's huge. I mean, when we started this podcast, the whole goal was, how do we just open up a conversation about what's happening in society, the way people are showing up for themselves out of self-judgment rather than self-care? How do we just open up that conversation to bring more awareness to why people are doing things so they can have more intention as to why they're doing things? And I think that, you know, you've touched on this a bunch of times, but it's certainly skewed towards keeping women small and making sure that women feel like they have to look a certain way, right? Because I think in the past, right, why did women have to look a certain way? Because they needed to have a husband to provide for them and all this other stuff, right? And that's not necessarily the case now, right? Everybody has the opportunity to do whatever they want. And I think it's important that everybody takes a moment to check in with themselves and say, what is the life that I want to live, right? I talk about this all the time, and I know you guys hate the whole mortality thing, but I think that contemplating death is one of the best ways to make good decisions on a day-to-day basis, because you just end up going, hey, if this isn't, if I'm not here forever, then I better make some good decisions now, because if I don't, it's just going to disappear from under me. You know?
I mean, I think it all goes back to just choices, but like evaluating your intention and where those choices came from and going, I'm making that choice because I think I've been believing this thing that society has told me, or my parents have told me, or my friends have told me. I was even laughing with my, I'm talking about my good friend. We were in her hot tub. She's been divorced for years. And, she's dated and stuff. And we were in her hot tub a couple weeks ago, and I looked at her and I had this moment and I said, girl, do you really think you want a man moving in this house with you? Like, all his stuff and like, what is he going to do? And she was like, oh my God, I don't know that I do. And I was like, you don't have to if you don't want to. And she's like, I know. Like, I think I'd have to have a separate house. Like, and to think that is like such a radical way to think, like, you know what I mean? Like, she said when she was going through her divorce, people were like, oh, I'm so sorry. And she's like, sorry? Like, I'm making it was like this like pity party for her. And she was like, I'm actually not interested in your pity. Like, we just have all these beliefs that like divorce is bad and women need to be married. They can't be single. If there's, that poor single woman at home. I'm like, this woman, my good friend of mine, she's living a life, you guys. Like, I just want to call it out a little bit, right? So I think, again, it just comes back to like just support and care and non-judgment. I know that human beings are almost born to judge in a way. And so it is hard to really evaluate what non-judgment looks like. But I think it's totally okay if like women don't want to get married. And there's this woman I follow on TikTok who cracks me up. She has a husband, but they do not live in the same house. They actually live down the block from each other, and they invite each other over, and they have nights by themselves. And I'm like, I know you don't like that, but I really like it. I think it's amazing. Like, you get to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Well, I think
that blows my mind.
Something I want to just point out. Like, it's very clear that the weight you carry is the weight of feeling like you didn't get to do what you wanted to do. And so I want to make sure that when we're talking, when people are listening, they're holding the context of that, because there's different problems that other people have that aren't that, right? That somebody probably feels like they could do anything, they wanted to do, and now they want to just like figure out what the heck that is or something, right? There's all kinds of different layers of this problem. So I don't know. I just want to bring awareness to that.
Well, I also think, can I call something out a little bit? Do you sit in, do you?
We'll see after you say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you sit
I'm the one who comes to the
under,
podcast completely unprepared. You guys, we got you. We'll talk about something.
Do you sit in the understanding that out of all the people on the planet, you being a successful white man means that you have been given the opportunity over everyone else on the planet to do whatever you want to do?
Yeah, and I think that's
like think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, when people would tell you, like an authority figure in your life, no, you can't do that. Society told you, yes, you could. And so it was funny. I was actually, and there's no shame in that. I think it's just we need to acknowledge that. And I actually acknowledge that I'm the next person in line to that privilege, right? As a white woman. Like, I'm the next person in line to that privilege. So I think it's important to understand that, yeah, we all come to the table with sort of different projections of society onto us and different permissions, right? Like, I was doing this girl who does some babysitting for us. She's super sweet. I actually used to be her babysitter when she was little, and now she's babysitting my kids. I don't know why I get such a kick out of that. But I'm like, wow, that time went by pretty quick. She said, she's a business major, and she said, I'm supposed to interview an entrepreneur. Can I interview you? And I was like, I'm an entrepreneur, okay. So I said, let me send you a voice memo with all the answers, and I sent them to her last night. And it was like, what was one of the biggest obstacles you had to overcome? And I said, this is going to sound silly, but me leaning into my natural ability to be a leader was the hardest thing I had to overcome. Because when I was little, and when little girls my age, or maybe even today in certain parts of, not in my house, but in other homes maybe, when I was little, when I displayed leadership skills, I was called bossy. When little boys around me displayed leadership, they were like, look at this natural born leader. So anytime I tried to lead, I was labeled that. And so then put into the position that I am now, I'm like, that was my biggest mental obstacle to ever overcome. It was like, you are a natural born leader, and it's absolutely okay that you're a female. You can absolutely do that. It was like in my mind that I couldn't do that. And so, I don't know, I just think it's important to acknowledge, like, all of these things that we're told really shape our ability to lean into who we are as a person, which is just wild.
Yeah.
And I want to say, and like, what a privilege for me to say, you get to do whatever you want, because there are people in 2022 who still can't do what they want. Like, I can break free of that mentally and then still do that, right?
Yeah, still get
Somebody
stuck.
else in a different position can break free from that mentally and still be stopped. Like, at this point, I'm not going to get a ton of, like, there is going to be some haters, like, oh, this woman, who does she think she is, whatever. But there's a lot of other people who can break that mental barrier, and society just still stops them. And I just, it really breaks my heart, to be honest with you.
Because what do you want for people? You want them just to be free to be themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And yet we're all stuck in a society that says, no, if you don't fit into this box, then we're not going to accept you, right? So how do we change that?
This is where you come in, Nina. I don't.
Oh, I'm the expert now?
I don't have the
change that?
answer.
How do we change that?
You have an unapologetic quality to you
Wow.
that I appreciate, that I learned a lot
Very
from.
sweet of you to say.
It's true. There's a side of you that's very unapologetic. Like, who cares? I don't know if it's because you're an Aries, or like if there's, I don't know.
I'm not sure. I definitely think that, I don't know. I had a really unique, I'm going to take it all the way back here. I had a really unique experience, and I think I've spoken about this on the podcast previously, but in like formative years, right? Like, as children, we have experiences that shape us for a lifetime. And one of those experiences for me was like, I was left basically alone on a large farm like with no adult to be like telling me what to do or where to be or what time, or I was unschooled, right? I was taken out of school. I was put on a farm and I was allowed to like go forth and be.
Yeah.
And because there were no expectations on me in any type of way, and I had no like outside voice telling me like, you can't dress like that, you look stupid, or you can't do that thing, that's not what cool kids are doing, I was left to my own devices for lack of a better way of describing it. And in doing so, like that set me up with this platform or this foundation that really put me in a position to be like, I don't want to subscribe to that. And I remember when I came back to school, because I was taken out of school for a year and some change and then put back into public school after that. And I'm actually a huge proponent of public school. I really believe in public school. But I was taken out of school and put back in. And when I came back in, I had gone, I should rewind for a second. I had left school in 5th grade and come back in 7th grade.
Oh, so like in junior high.
Right, this is junior high. And so I came back to a school that had already been in session with the same kids that I had known from elementary school. But I had left them for this, puberty is a big time. And I had left them for a part of that. And I came back in 7th grade and everyone was clicked up and everybody was hanging out. And I remember this mean girl in school. She did something kind of harmful to one of the other students. And the girl came back from the bathroom and was like, who drew all over my notebook? Like, who did this? And I totally like tattled. I was like, it was this girl. And the other girl came up to me and said, like, are you stupid? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why would you tell on me? Like, I'm going to basically beat you up. And I was like, okay. I mean, you're welcome to do so, but I'm not going to like meet you after school or whatever. And she was so shocked that I wasn't willing to like meet her after school to get my ass beat. I was like, no, that's weird. Why would I do that? And like, that was the beginning of a long life of me being like, why would I do that? Like, why would I meet you after school to beat me up? Like, that's what they do in the movies, but like, I'm not going to go do that. You can hit me at break, like in front of the principal's office, but like, I'm not available. And that happened later in my life. Like, I'd end up in situations where someone would be like, well, you're gonna have to do this thing because of what just happened. And I'd be like, why? And so that curiosity, I think, just comes from a place of growing up in a space where I didn't have someone else telling me what I should do. I just naturally responded to the things around me. And obviously,
so you got to connect with yourself more.
So
for
you
a
heard
long
it here
time.
first that the key is
Take your kids out of school. No, I'm just kidding.
18-month break on a farm.
Yep, with
That's the
goats
key.
only, no people.
No, but you brought up something really important. I think this is the key to it, is how often does someone listening, whoever's listening, how often do you just take a break from everything and check in with yourself?
Yeah, there was no one else
Right?
to talk to but me.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting to think that when you never have the experience of just being alone and more autonomous in kind of what you're deciding to do with your time and your thoughts and everything, then you just kind of go the direction that everybody else is going.
Yeah.
But then you give it that break and you come back in and you're like, some of this is crazy, you know?
Totally,
And it
when you
takes
look
a
at it from the
tremendous
outside.
amount of bravery to say 9 out of 10 people are doing this and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, that is huge because that is like such a vulnerable position to be in, to say like, no, I'm not participating in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But
And
most people are miserable, right? So what we're saying is that people want to fit in with the misery, right? And I think that if we just step back and recognize that we want to feel like we belong, so we make decisions based on what everyone else is doing, and then the reward is we're miserable, right? Like, why would we do that,
Well,
right?
I mean, I think you're just basically saying that our idea of what it means to connect and belong is predicated on this, and this. But the real, true, authentic way to connect and belong is actually through support, non-judgment, vulnerability, all the things that we're afraid of and all the things that we don't do. It's like all the other ways that we've been trained to connect and fit in are ways that are really not authentic to self, which will actually never create true, authentic connection. So if you're actually looking to truly connect with other human beings, then you need to be okay with being vulnerable, be okay with being who you are. Try to approach the world as best as you can from a non-judgmental space so that you can offer non-judgment to yourself and to other. Like, those are the real ways that we actually connect and belong. And who was that woman we were watching yesterday? I want to look her up. She was talking about like what some of the factors were to Wendy Suzuki. She was talking about they did like these long-term studies on longevity, and they thought, okay, exercise movement's going to be the number one thing, right? She said it was up there. I think it was in the top 3, so don't panic. But the number one thing was connection with community. What's not wild? That's how human beings
It's not
are.
wild. I think a lot of people feel like really alone, out there. And I think that you nailed something really important there. And this is something that I kind of experienced in a meditation a while back, that I was just, sometimes when you're in a meditation, you have these thoughts or these kind of things creep in and you go, wow, that feels really real to me, like a really solid piece of wisdom. And something that happened to me was just that you can only give others what you can offer yourself. And so when you're sitting there going like, how come, I'm not getting the connection I need from others? It's not because others aren't connected to you. It's because you're not connected to you.
Absolutely.
And you have to start with taking space to figure out who you are. What do you want? What do you want your life to look like? Like, how can you be comfortable with you? And once you're comfortable with you and you're in the world, that changes the way that you present yourself. And then other people who are comfortable with themselves show up. And then you find a deeper level of connection because you have a deep person connecting with a deep person in a deep and meaningful way versus on the surface level, right?
Like, we talked about this last week. Remember when I was like, you get to say no, and the close people in your life who can't accept boundaries probably shouldn't be close to you anyway. Like last night we were supposed to go to dinner with a good friend and I was exhausted. I said, I can't do that today. And the old pattern came in like, oh, well, you said you would, and he's going to be upset. And then the new pattern said, nope, you're going to say it anyway. So I texted him and I just said, I'm so sorry. I'm really exhausted. I don't think I can do dinner tonight. And he was like, no problem. Totally get it. I'll see you next week. Like, because he cares about me. And he is a safe person for me to make deep connection with. And so therefore I just get to like have boundaries and be myself and say what I want and say what I need and be received in that. And if you're surrounded with people in your life who can't offer you that, unfortunately it's time to take a look around.
I remember one time we were together at your house and I had to go somewhere like at 5 and I was like, oh, I really don't want to go. And you're like, well, what is it? And I'm like, oh, it's this thing I paid like, $50 to go to, whatever. It's like a workshop. And you're like, but you don't want to go. And I'm like, no, I really don't want to go. I'm super tired. I'd rather just do something else. And you're like, so you're going to pay money to go be miserable. And I was like, when you put it that way, no, I'm not going to go. Like, I'm just going to let that $50 go. Because for me, I think that was a decent, money, whatever. I didn't want to spend money on something I didn't do. Yeah. And then you're like, why though? Like the money wasn't worth the like difference of, no, I want to meet my own needs today. And those needs are to take rest, to take space, to take whatever I needed. And it was so funny. You're like, why would you do that? And it was such a great thing to be asked. Because I'm like, oh, when you put it that way, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. No, I think we have to, it's okay to rest too. I'm going to plug my new book. I just started reading. My naturopath actually recommended it to me. She's incredible. She was like, oh, you would love this book. It's called Rest is Resistance.
I've never heard a description of a book that felt more suited to you in my entire life.
No, this woman,
triple
her
Taurus
name is
queen coming in hot.
Teresa. Yeah, her name is, well, I'm actually on a double Taurus.
Well, you should be a triple.
I know. Her name is Tricia Hershey. She has this this organization called the Nap Ministry. Right. And she's all about like standing up for, capitalism and white supremacy. And like, she believes that one of the most powerful ways we can do that is through rest and saying, no, I'm not participating in that anymore. Yeah. I'm going to rest.
And you meant standing up against. You said standing up
for.
So let's let
the record state. The internet is a scary place.
I'm sorry. I haven't. Did I finish the coffee? I did finish the coffee.
Yeah. Against. We're on the same page.
She is standing up against.
Very strongly.
Capitalism and white supremacy, and she believes that a really powerful way to do that is to say, I'm going to rest, and you can't make me, work that much or do that much or participate that much. Like I can't speak too much about, like, I just started it, but like right when I read the inside cover, I went, oh, this woman's incredible. So I'll report back, but so far 10 out of 10, highly recommend.
I thought I was the first one who was going to get canceled on this podcast.
Oh, we knew you weren't. Because you know what? I said this before. When we made the product and when we were talking about movement and feeling better and giving people really practical tools through movement that could help them connect with their body and feel better, I was like, that is a real safe bet and I'm here for it. And there's another side of this. We have to talk about weight loss culture, fad diets, societal expectation, oppression of women, other oppressed groups. Like, we have to bring those things up. And you were like, oh, we do? And I was like, oh, yeah, we do. And then I went, shit, everyone's going to like you and everyone's not going to like me. And I just I'm okay with that. At this point, I don't know if this is a good time, Connor, to read.
We like you. It's okay.
To be honest with you, I'm getting better at not caring. It's not, I'm a human, so I care a little bit.
What's most important? That like you.
I actually am.
That's what's most important.
I do really feel like a year or two ago, I wouldn't have been able to do this at all. I would have been paralyzed with negative feedback and criticism, and my ego couldn't have handled it. And now I can go, okay, we had this following of people before that were here for exercise. And now we're actually talking about kind of what we think is more rooted stuff that's related to the exercise that no one's totally talking about. And I just think that it's necessary. I feel called to do that, and I'm just going to do it. And so along that way, in the beginning of this transition, or not transition, but addition, I realized that our audience, our current audience, may not like this. And so what I'd like to do is say, that's okay. I will eventually find the people who are interested in hearing this, because some of the things that we talk about and some of the things that we share and some of the vulnerability we express here will be meeting someone in a space where they need to hear that, and giving somebody else permission to say, okay, I got to stop these things and I got to evaluate what I need and what I want, and will bring somebody less suffering in this world. So it's okay if our current audience isn't 100% on board. I know that there is an audience for this. This is why I want to do this. So we're just gonna weather the storm.
Yeah, and
of
I don't
the
think,
reaction.
I don't think there's even a storm. He's just like,
Oh well, you haven't. Connor has
no,
some.
I know
Fun comments.
there's some comments that people make on this stuff, but at the end of the day, I think that the reality is, WeShape is a company who's trying to help people feel better in their bodies and about their bodies, and it does require us to have a bigger conversation. And some people just want to show up and do some movements to make their shoulder feel better or their back feel better, and that's fine. That's fine. Like, that's totally fine. We want you just to feel better. And some people are going to show up and they're going to have, 25 failed diets under their belt and 3 decades worth of self-judgment and feeling miserable about themselves. And they're going to hear these podcasts and they're going to join the calls and they're going to come into the community, and they're going to love being a part of a community where someone's not focused on changing the way you look so that you can get acceptance outside of yourself. And instead, we're focused on saying, hey, love yourself as you are and show up for your workouts out of self-love rather than self-judgment. So I think it's such a necessary thing. And to me, it's just a big spectrum, right? Like, what do you need to feel better about yourself and in your body?
Well, this is what we talked about last week, because Carly, our person who runs all the ops for the company, she was like, I really need your, when the user's coming in, I need to communicate to the company, what is our process here at WeShape? And I'm like, I know, I've been sitting on this for months. I'll get it to you this week. So I finally was able to kind of really marinate in it. And I feel like we're offering people a 4-step process.
Are you going to talk about the steps?
I'm going to talk about the steps.
Can I just say something really quick?
Yeah.
Katie's, one of her special superpowers, one of her many special superpowers, is naming stuff.
I love naming
Oh,
things.
you're so good at naming stuff.
If
And that is one of my
anybody ever
deficiencies.
needs me to name a pet or
Yeah.
one of their child, I'm available.
Email us.
Yeah.
No, but I really did want to sit with it, and I sat with it for a long time. We implemented our systems and processes months ago, and she was like, when are you going to give me this? And I'm like, I'm ready. I've been marinating and meditating on this for a long time. But I'd love for people to come into WeShape and understand 4 different things. One, I'm calling it attention to your intention, right? I really believe intention is everything, and you really need to understand your why. The second one is improvement through movement. So much of physical pain, even psychological or emotional pain, can be improved through movement. Scientifically speaking, we know that. And the movement and the product that we offer through movement here is rooted in biomechanics. So how your body is supposed to move. It's functional movement patterns. So improvement through movement. And the third one is community as opportunity. I think people really underestimate and undervalue the experience of connecting with somebody else who's experiencing something similar, right? So you can really feel held in a way you don't even understand until you experience that. And then the fourth one was liberation through education. So I really think of education as a key to a cage. And when you can you can't actually be educated though without opening your mind. So opening your mind and being open to a new way and to new belief systems and to new thoughts, I believe is a key to a cage where you can be kind of get out. I've been calling it to our team a get out of jail free card. And so I want to, communicate to the community of WeShape that if you're stuck, just revisit one of those 4 things. Like when
Yeah.
you come in, I want you to focus on your intention and then try one of the workouts and then join one of our community calls and then listen to our podcast or recommended readings. But like at any point through your journey, you can make big shifts if you're stuck. I think that's what a lot of the human experience is sort of getting unstuck in things, right?
Yeah.
I don't believe in pushing things down and not addressing things and covering up your emotions and not being vulnerable. But I also think that there's a period of time where we can get stuck in something that no longer serves us. And the only way out of that is self-acknowledgement. And so what I want WeShape to do is to offer people tools to get a little bit unstuck.
Yeah.
And I think that focusing on your intention and moving your body and connecting with community and educating yourself are the pillars for making that happen.
You know, it's really, I can't prove this at all, but I think there's a lot of synergy at play there as well. I mean, clearly when you feel supported by a community, you feel connected, it makes you feel happier, it makes you feel like you want to show up for those things. But as you said, you know, liberation through education and moving your body, how do those 2 things relate? And to me, that's why I've always loved fitness, because we all eat, right? So when we change our diet, we're just still eating. We're just kind of showing up differently most of the time out of self-judgment, not out of like, you know, trying to care for ourselves. But when you add movement into your life and when it's very intentional, like you're trying to connect with how your body feels and how it's supposed to function, not only do you feel better in your body and you build strength and balance and coordination and all this stuff, but you're rewiring your brain. And when you rewire your brain, you're expanding the possibilities of how you learn things. Like so much of our early childhood movement practice is developing our brain structure, right? The moment a baby is born and they lift their head, then they roll over, then they press up, then they crawl, then they walk. All of that's required to develop the way that the brain functions as well. The more sophisticated the motor patterns, the more ways we can connect ideas and concepts together inside of our brains. And so to me, I feel like it's just it's one of these things I think that over time people are going to recognize how important this is, and they're all going to want to get up and start really moving more intentionally in their lives. So I don't know, kudos to you. I love the names, and I think that there's so much synergy to be had there for people to really find a way to just go back to something and reconnect with it. It's so important.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I don't know. I believe that those are the things that if people get stuck, we can revisit one of those things and can help get a little unstuck. So hopefully it resonates with the community. And sorry, Carly, it took me 6 months to give you that information. But
It's worth the wait.
I need to sit on these things. I cannot make decisions overnight about things that hold a lot of meaning for me. So it takes me a little bit of time, but I eventually come around and sort it out. So yeah, our community is expanding. Our mission is expanding. And so, you know, the audience that we once had, some of them will be very excited about this shift because it is expansive and offers a lot more. And some of them will be nervous to, make a change or look at something from a different way. And that's okay. And I know earlier when we were doing the pre-production for this, we were saying, oh, maybe we'll read some of the negative comments and answer some of the things that people are saying. And you were like, I can't understand how people can. I'm like, well, behind a computer, first of all, it's easier to just really to somebody. But I really have a belief that my first reaction is always a little knee-jerky. Like, oh, I can't believe. And then I sit with it for a minute and I go, happy people, satisfied people do not act that way. And so I can have a reaction, and I can have a justified reaction to a comment, a mean comment. But I also could move into more empathy and sympathy because there's likely some suffering that's going on the inside, and that's how it's being expressed on the outside. And that's actually really sad. So I am a believer, like putting good out there, and we're not perfect, and maybe someone was grumpy one night and made a comment, and then the next day they're like, oh, I was mean, I shouldn't have said that. Like, I just want to give grace to being a human. It is what it is.
We all make mistakes every day, right? And I think that that's one of the things is we're like so afraid from the ramifications of those mistakes that we don't end up connecting with ourselves and being authentic. And then we just kind of narrow our box more and more until we've built our own prison. And it's like, how do we not feel afraid to show up authentically, knowing that mistakes are certain, right? Failure is certain, right? And the only thing that keeps you held back from becoming the best version of yourself is identifying yourself as a failure. It's not the failing. The failing's going to happen either way, right? It's saying,
It's attachment.
I'm a failure, and then going, woo, and retreating, and you're making your box smaller. But if you just accept the reality that you're going to get kicked while you're down over and over again in life, and that's just a part of the process. And what I think that we all need to recognize is it's when we get kicked when we're down, or when we feel lousy, or somebody says something about us, it's the process by which we can pull ourselves from that negative state back into a positive state. Maybe recognizing empathy for whatever that person's circumstance is. It's the practice of doing that over and over again consistently that allows us to then shorten that process. When we shorten that process, all of a sudden we can live a much more joyful life, right? Because something negative happens to us and we give ourselves a little bit of space for it. We connect with ourselves. We move through it. We come back to being in the state we want to be in, not in the state that we're forced to be in, or we think
I mean,
we're
I
forced
think
to
a
be in.
lot of our life is just holding up a narrative so that the people on the outside of us looking at us can be satisfied. But that is a really unsatisfying way to live. And when you can sort of like break down those walls and have an open mind and explore new ideas and beliefs and concepts, I really do believe it's a very liberating experience. Like, for example, I'm going to share what's recently happened with us, which is Tyler and I had specific investment goals for WeShape. It's a really rocky market to get investors. And our CFO came to us. This was one of the podcasts a few weeks ago that I broke down on, and said, what are you guys going to do? Because you didn't meet your investment goals. And I said, okay, I'm going to sell. I have this house that I bought. I don't know how many years ago we bought it, 10 years ago, 9 years ago. It was a house that was in my family. It was a small little house, but it meant a lot to my family. And I told my parents and my uncle who I bought it from that I would never sell it, that I just wanted to buy it from them and renovate it and kind of make that my primary residence. Well, then I got pregnant while we were in the middle of the remodel. And the house is very tiny, right? It's like under 1,000 square feet. It was like it's livable. You could absolutely live there with 2 kids, but I knew that we probably weren't going to live there. So we ended up keeping the house, but getting a different house. So I've had this house. It has some sentimental value. But I said, I think I'm going to have to sell that house. And our CFO said, what? I believed he actually called me delusional in the meeting. So if you're listening, Mike, thank you. I understand it's your job. It's your job. But I said, no, I am going to sell it. And he said, what? And like, it was really interesting to watch the reaction of other when I chose to make that decision. Because actually, I didn't tell him I would sell it right away. I said, I want to sit on it for a couple days. I'll get back to you. Gosh, my phone keeps ringing. I hope it's not the school. Weird. Anyway, it always worries me when my phone rings and it's random numbers. Anyway, sorry for the sidetrack. So I sat with it and I thought, why don't you want to sell it? Let's go there first. And all the reasons I came up with were feeding my ego. Were feeding other people's perspective of what they wanted from me. Like, my parents don't want you to sell it, and you promised them in tradition, and something must be wrong with you because something's really going wrong in your life. You're having to sell a property, and so I just said, okay, that's my ego trying to survive, but why do I want to sell it? And I'm like, I want to sell it because I deeply believe in the mission that we have here. We didn't meet our investment goals. Fine. I have this, I'm feeling actually tremendous gratitude that I have the option to sell this rather than regret or failure, right? I knew that people would want me to feel like a sense of failure, and for some reason I can't feel failure around it. And so it is interesting. So I called our agent and I said, okay, I'm going to sell the house. He said, okay. He said, are you sure? Because the minute I put it on the market, it's going to go quick. And I said, yeah, I'm sure. And so he put multiple for sale signs. It was gone in 3 days. And I remember thinking, and then the text messages started coming in from people. I drove by your property. It's for sale. What's wrong? Is everything okay? And I said, everything's great. I said, Tyler and I had to make a difficult decision. We didn't meet our investment goals. We hit a rock in a hard place. And I made a decision to sell the house because I deeply believe in what we're doing. And so I said, so it's actually all good on our end. This is more important to me. And of course, everyone who reached out were like friends. So they were super supportive, but it's kind of like my friend with a divorce, like, oh, we're so sorry. I'm like, I'm not sorry. Like, I know that the narrative that people want me to hold up around that is like, you failed to meet your investment goals and now you have to sell your house and what a failure. And I'm like, you let your family down. And I'm like, I'm sorry for that. I did call my dad and uncle and asked them and told them. I didn't just like, rip the rug out from them. They were supportive. They didn't want me to, but they were like, we totally get it. And we're supportive of your dreams. So you do what you need to do. But it's just like, it's that example, right? It's like perception is everything. I could have attached to that failure. I could have held up okay, yeah, you can put it on the market, but don't put the for sale sign out because then people will, it's like, no, this is what's happening. And anyone can perceive that situation however they want, but I get to choose how I perceive it.
Yeah.
And me choosing to assign failure to that is literally making a choice to suffer. So I just won't do it. And we've had hard moments with it. We signed the papers yesterday to say goodbye.
Yeah.
The movers were there this morning. It was hard. It was sad to see that little place go. We brought Macy home from the hospital there. We built a lot of memories. I literally hand designed every single thing in that house. It was like the most like health, low EMF, eco, environmentally friendly, like as off the grid as you can get, right? And it was a special little place. And I'm super grateful for the people who get to enjoy special memories there. And I'm so incredibly grateful that I had the privilege to have the house in the first place because I got to sell it so that I could keep doing this.
Yeah.
So again, it's just an example of like society really wants me to be called a failure for that. And I just like won't accept it. I just won't.
Just as a side note on this experience, I think that most people in society have a scorecard in their mind, right? This is what the scorecard of my achievement is. And if I get achievement, I'll feel validated. I had that scorecard for a long time, and it was my bank account and my success and my achievement and all this stuff, right? And for anybody out there who's feeling, like, oh, I could do more and achieve more and make more money and stuff like that, I'll just be the first person over and over again to tell you this is not going to make you any happier, especially if you don't derive meaning from the work that gets you there. And I think that when people commented on the house and said, oh my gosh, are you guys, everything okay? It's like all I wanted to do is be like, never been better. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Doesn't mean it doesn't sting because there's sentimental value there. But to really be able to do something that you absolutely love, that is changing people's lives. When I get on a call with the community and I see somebody go from, there was a lady who came to a call a while back, and she was having a hard time with negative self-talk. And she was like, I just look in the mirror and I can't find anything positive about myself. And I just looked at her and I was like, you got a great smile. Maybe you should start there. And she smiled and she's like, okay, thank you. And then like a month later, I see her on another call and she's glowing. She's like, she gave herself permission to like herself, right? Like for us to be able to do that work and do it in a really meaningful way, like I'll trade anything for that, because my scorecard is not how much money I'm going to get from it. It's how much impact I feel I can make on others, really connecting with themselves and showing up for themselves,
Yeah. And I'll just say, I know that the people who were texting me were doing it out of love and concern.
Sure.
And I know that they didn't want me to attach to that feeling of failure. I know that wasn't their intention, but I know that it would be socially acceptable for me to feel like a failure around that. And I just won't. And I just don't. And again, it doesn't mean that like hard feelings haven't come in. In fact, when they start to come in, I'm like, just let it happen. Don't store that shit in your body. Like, let it come out. Let it do what it needs to do because it's part of the process. It's not one or the other. But I'm grateful, honestly, at the end of the day. And I know my ego had to die a little death in that. And or part of my ego did anyway. I don't know if we ever really get rid of that protector.
Definitely not.
Yeah. But it's okay. Like, it really is okay. And there was a lot of release that happened for me being able to have it really put in my face like that. Like, how much do you care about this? And I was like, whoa, I'm really having to be faced with this, because it's easy to care about something when it's going well. You have to really look in the mirror when you have to make hard decisions. But, I'm even thinking about this. Like, I think that we're not going to read the comments, Connor. I just don't think we need to. I feel like, why do I want to give people a platform to hate on us?
Can I say one thing, just going back to that before the comments thing? The first thing you said in the process that we want people to go through is attention to intention. And I know you believe this really like serves as the foundation for everything. But to me, that made such a huge difference on the reason why I wake up and come to work and try to build this amazing product in this amazing community. It's because that intention shifted, right? It's no longer like, what's in it for me? What am I going to get from this? It's like, let's just see if we can show up and get one person to do something to feel better about their body and in their body, you know? And I think that a lot of people go to work and don't find very much meaning in it, and then they go home and they don't find very much meaning in it, and they kind of hide away from that. Maybe it's by eating or watching TV or something like that. And I think that it's really important for all of us to sit back and go, you know, how can I contribute to a better place to live? How can I use my pain that I've overcome, my experiences that I've overcome, to help others overcome their pain and experiences? And I think it starts with you, right? Taking care of yourself and then showing others how to take care of themselves. And I don't know. I feel like obliged to tell people, like, it's okay to give yourself permission to check in with yourself and say, what do I really want to do? Who do I really want to be? Who do I want to serve? How do I want to show up? And ask those difficult questions. Well, and when you
think about, when you say, like, in the past, when you felt like your success financially, like that was your goalpost, that was your measure for worth, when you really dissect that, that just comes from fear and insecurity and value, and like that, and is
society telling us that that's what's important.
I hear you.
You know?
And I think that part of the reason I, was able to just kind of, okay, I'm going to move in this direction and make the decision to sell this family home was, you have to have a certain level of trust in things. Like, not everything is in our control, and there are bigger workings that are happening beyond our ability to. We can't, if we think that we can control everything, that's just a wild thought process. It's just not possible. And so trusting in, I will be taken care of and I am safe, is a practice that can allow for those other things. You know what I mean? So that way you're not so much coming from that space of, I need to have the biggest bank account. Like, when I was answering those questions for that college student last night, one of the questions was, what would you tell a new entrepreneur who was looking to embark upon a business plan? And I was like, pick something that you care about.
Super deep.
Because if you pick something that you think will just give you the most money, you'll go through all the pain and struggle of the whole thing, and then you'll get the money, and then you'll go, oh no, why don't I feel as good as I thought I would? So if you could just, like, if you want to learn a lesson, just bypass that. Pick something you actually care about. And then when you do that, you can actually trust a little bit more. Like, I trust that I'm going to be taken care of, right? Like, the definition of what that means might not be exactly what I want, but I am going to have to surrender a little bit and say, okay, I'm going to trust in this process a little bit, and it's going to unfold in a way that will be surprising to me, but I can't pretend like I'm going to know what's going to happen. I have to, like, really surrender in a lot of ways. So
you just said something, though. I just keep going back to this intention thing. Like, we ask our people to show up with their intention, their why they're doing this. And if you say something superficial that society has taught you is what your goalpost is, you're going to get there maybe, and you're going to feel lousy still. And it's only the things that really, really deeply matter that, A, give you that intrinsic motivation, that desire to push forward and succeed, like, no matter what, as well as the satisfaction, like, during the journey and even throughout the entire journey. Because people think that you're going to get somewhere and you're going to feel better. Good luck with that thought process. You're going to be very disappointed. It's like, how do you enjoy the process of getting there?
Well, and also, I don't want you to paint a picture like, because we went more mission driven and we're trying to have more impact and we weren't so worried about the financial like, there's still a lot of hard stuff. I think what it is a commitment to the growth and the opportunity for self-reflection and the opportunity for mistakes and the understanding that challenges are going to come, and you have to believe in yourself to be able to overcome those challenges. Like, that's what it is. Like, if you think that the challenges are going to stop because you decided to love yourself, no. The challenges are still going to come. You're just going to have a better, there will be a little bit of ease in the struggle, I think, if you can connect with self and come from that place. But the challenges won't go away. So I think we should be really clear. This isn't about, like, well, great, you just love yourself and then the world is just easy, right? So I don't know. I think that's important to mention.
Here's where I'm going to challenge you, though, right? Is the challenges don't go away. But it's our perception about what those challenges mean to us that changes. And if our perception changes from ah, which is I've been there more times than I can count, to a little
This
bit more.
morning you were there,
A
yeah.
little bit more faith, a little bit more patience, a little bit more, trust. Then I think that the experience doesn't feel as
That's what I mean.
Scary.
It's providing a little bit of ease.
Yeah.
But I don't want to paint a picture that it goes away.
no.
Yeah.
Just your capacity
Are
to
you
handle
looking
it
at
goes
what
away.
I'm looking at?
Do you want me to get the
Yeah,
spider
I would
that's
like
been
you to-
dangling from?
There's a
I'm like-
spider on me?
Yeah, you looked at it for like 2 minutes, Tyler.
I feel very upset.
I didn't want to interrupt the pod. We were talking about meaningful stuff, and there's a spider crawling on Nina's headphones.
I was like, I told Connor earlier, I was like, it's okay if we're like a little bit messy on this podcast. Like, I'm okay to like
Stop
is
for the
school-
spider next time.
Yeah, there's a spider. The school's calling me. Like, life is happening around us. So
Yeah.
I just have to practice acceptance around the spider.
You are not a failure just because that spider was crawling on your headphones.
You are not a failure as a friend just because you didn't help me get the spider off earlier.
Oh, don't worry. I was watching it. It was just going to make a skin landing. I was going to give you a real quick. You know? But
Okay,
just,
well,
just
I have
floating
the
freely.
heebie-jeebies now.
yeah, rule of thumb moving forward: if there's a spider on someone's body during the podcast, it's okay if we stop for a moment.
Hard stop.
But anyway, I feel like it's a
Okay.
good time to segue out. Anyway, although we
Love
should
yourself. Help your friends when they have spiders crawling
out
on
for
them. The
spiders.
morals of the day, right?
But I think we should tell people how to get in touch with us.
Okay.
Dude,
Well, you
is
can't
it-
get in touch with me even if you have my phone number. So
Yeah,
don't
I
call
can't help you
Tyler.
guys with that
Refer
one.
to episode 3 for more details about that. I think it's podcast@weshape.com.
Absolutely.
And obviously we're on all the social channels.
all the socials.
All the socials. But yeah, if you want to send us an email, podcast@weshape.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you send us a hater email, I am okay to read some of them because maybe I could learn. But like today, I decided we're not going to, I know we might have read some of them and I was like, I don't really feel like giving the energy, but we'd love to hear from you if you want to send us an email. So do we have a guest next week?
We do. We do.
Oh my gosh, we have Dr. Peg coming. Is that next week?
Oh, I think we're recording 2 podcasts next
do
week. So
have
2
2 next
guests
week.
next week.
We have the challenge winner and we have Dr. Peg.
Yes.
Oh yes, it's
I'm
going to
so
be good
excited.
ones. Good ones.
Okay, cool. Well, you guys are definitely going to want to listen to the next 2 episodes coming up. The challenge winner, her name is Sarah, right? She's joining from Portland. And then Dr. Peg, she does incredible work that we're going to talk about.
She's amazing.
I'm going to let her explain it because I will mess it up. So anyway, thanks you guys for joining. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.